Good morning, and welcome to the American Public University Symposium on Current Science Knowledge in Support of Popular Science Writing. I am Thomas Allen, a student at American Public University, and I will be discussing a book written by Jeffrey McKee titled Sparing Nature. A brief overview of what I will be discussing is as follows. I will introduce the purpose of my symposium, give a brief background of the book, introduce the thesis of Sparing Nature, give McKee's reason for conservation, explain why McKee thinks protecting biodiversity is important, and then wrap things up with a summary of the presentation. The purpose of my symposium is to reinforce the discussion Jeffrey McKee presents regarding human overpopulation and its adverse effects on the environment in his book, Sparing Nature. A brief background on the author of Sparing Nature. Jeffrey McKee is a professor at The Ohio State University. McKee had finished a book in 2001 and was teaching a class called Human Ecological Adaptations. As he was covering the past 10,000 years, which he considers to be the present, he was focusing on two trends: the explosive growth of the human population and the ongoing mass extinction of plants and animals. He was concerned with his students and their lack of knowledge on either topic, so he decided to write another book, and the outcome was Sparing Nature. McKee addresses three theses in Sparing Nature. His first thesis is that there is a very close relationship between biodiversity loss and human population growth. His second thesis is the most important conservation measure we can take is to slow or halt the growth of the human population. And the third thesis is conserving biodiversity is vital to the health of our planet and consequently is vital to us. When it comes to conservation, McKee states that we need to practice conservation to support planetary health because nature does a lot of unheralded work for humans, and because of this work, humans cannot live without the environmental services our Earth provides us. Some of the environmental services McKee references in Sparing Nature is carbon sequestration. The Earth's rainforest removes carbon dioxide out of the air. Removing carbon dioxide from the air assists in reducing global warming. Rainforests are carbon sinks because they hold enough carbon that equates to more than half of the carbon in the atmosphere. Another service the environment provides is water filtration. Clean waterways are able to filter the water and provide food for other ecosystems and drinking water for humans. A third environmental service McKee discusses is erosion control. The grasslands of the temperate regions, when left untouched by humans, can provide erosion control, which provides grazing land for animals and keeps the soil fertile for future plant growth. These environmental services, along with many others, are vital to the health of human beings. So, how do we protect these environments and the biodiversity that lives within them? McKee's second thesis in Sparing Nature is the most important conservation measure we can take is to slow or halt the growth of the human population. But he also acknowledges that there are other measures we can take that are not as drastic. First, we need to change our agricultural processes. Second, we need to educate the general public and change current regulations. And third, we have to reduce the practice of habitat fragmentation. In Sparing Nature, McKee states that the agricultural revolution is the point at which the biodiversity crisis began. Humans began changing ecosystems to plant crops, and these actions have resulted in a decrease in biodiversity. He feels that we have to change our agricultural processes so they are not as harmful on ecosystems. A study was conducted by a team of researchers in Italy in which they used GIS to perform a naturalness analysis to determine plant species distribution. The study determined that landscape analysis should use a biocultural approach to bridge the gap between human behavior and plant and animal ecology. Studies like this can help change agricultural processes and possibly reduce the loss of biodiversity during future agricultural processes. Another way to help protect biodiversity is to reduce human fertility rates. McKee describes how a reduction in human fertility rates can be possible educating the common people on family planning where to take place. This reduction in fertility rates could slow the human population growth enough to allow for future policies and management practices to catch up and reduce the decline in biodiversity on Earth. J.T. Trevors writes in Total Abuse of the Earth, Human Overpopulation and Climate Change, that human population growth has been uncontrolled and that this growth is a weapon of mass environmental destruction. Trevor's statements support McKee's ideas that human overpopulation is killing biodiversity and could result in an unsustainable future. The third aspect of human overpopulation that McKee discusses is habitat fragmentation. Habitat fragmentation is when we divide up species ranges into patches when we build roads, cut logging tracts, agricultural lands are expanded, suburbs are sprawled, rivers are dammed, and so on. By dividing up the ranges, we make the environments less hospitable or even dangerous for the organisms that live there. Habitat fragmentation is a result of the growth of the human population. More humans need more infrastructure to survive. An article was written in 2015 titled Urban Health in the Post-2015 Agenda. In this article, the author, Shamim Talukder, estimates that by 2050, about 70% of the world's population will be living in urban areas. One of his concerns is that the increase in human population will increase the degradation of the environment. He states that over the next few decades, sustainable development needs to focus on conservation of biodiversity, and that policymakers, scientists, and community organizations need to work together to make these changes happen. Shamim reinforces the statement McKee writes throughout his book and how human overpopulation is a major environmental issue. McKee acknowledges that current conservation efforts are doing a lot of good. However, he doesn't believe that they are going to be enough to counter the ever-increasing human population. In his opinion, if we really want to conserve biodiversity of our planet for future uses, we must halt the rapid growth of the human population and maybe even reduce its current size. But that being said, he also acknowledges that this is not an easy task. So, what can a single person do to help protect biodiversity? McKee discusses a concept called simple conservation, where small changes in a person's conservational efforts can lead to big changes. For instance, park in the first available parking spot rather than drive around looking for a closer spot, or be aware of how much water a person is consuming, or reduce the amount of waste a person is disposing. If everyone practiced simple conservation, then it might buy us enough time to establish new regulations and policies that will protect the biodiversity in our ecosystems and produce a sustainable future. In summary, we discussed the background of sparing nature, the thesis in sparing nature, some reasons for conservation, and why we need to protect biodiversity. We also heard of other authors that support McKee's belief that the overpopulation of humans is having adverse effects on the environment. This concludes my lecture. If you have any questions, please either email them to me at thomas.allen2@hotmail.com.